Hello, this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show, and on tonight we're going to give you an overview of the upcoming elections for Houston City Council. Houston, one of the largest metropolitan areas and one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the United States, is having their upcoming City Council election, and we're going to cover that here for you tonight. And on tonight's show, we have a candidate running for Houston City Council, Sonia Rivera.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Chris.
Thank you for being on the show. And so Sonia's going to get us up to speed on everything involving the Houston City Council upcoming election. So, Sonia, it's very good to see you tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. So there is a special election taking place right now in Houston City Council. Letitia Plummer is the current council member for the at-large position number 4, and she vacated the seat so she can run for another office. So she, the ultimate victor of this race will take office on January the 1st for the next 2 years to complete that term, which ends 27, it would end December 31st of 2027. But it's a great opportunity. It's a unique time right now for conservatives, for Republicans. I am running as a Republican. It's a nonpartisan race, so there is no labels on the ballot. But I am the hard Republican on the race, endorsed by the Harris County GOP, the C Club, and numerous other groups. A lot of the ladies' Republican clubs are supporting, and so I've gotten a lot of support. And it's a unique opportunity for us to add that 7th seat to City Council, which there never has been 7 conservatives on City Council. In Houston, the last time we had 6 was like in 2008, 2009. So it's a great opportunity for us.
Very good. Excellent. Very good. Well, to be quite honest, I'm not really familiar with Houston City Council. Can you tell us how many members are on it and what the makeup of it is today?
Yeah. So we have what's called a mayor-strong way of government. So the mayor determines what the agenda is going to be. However, in the last election 2 years ago, they passed some reform which indicated that if 3 council members can decide that they want something, can agree that they want something on the agenda, they're able to put it on the agenda.
So if I may say, on the agenda means something that would be voted on, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm. Or something that will be discussed in council. Mm-hmm. So in the past, if the mayor didn't want something on the agenda, he would just veto it. And so now if you have 2 other council members that agree with you and want the same goal, are working towards the same goal, then you can get it put on the agenda to be discussed at City Council.
And can the mayor veto it if 3 people propose it?
No. Mm-hmm. No. That was the beauty of the whole thing, is that it has to be heard. And the voters voted for it, so they can't just not do it. We have 16 council members. There's 11 that are district members, and they each have their own piece of Houston. And there's 5 at-large members, which really work with all of the district members, and they have a lot more freedom to get more stuff done because they're not confined by any boundaries or district lines. So they're able to support the other council members, but also take on some of the issues that maybe the district members are too busy working on their district. And so sometimes there's other things that maybe is not in the scope of what somebody's vision was for their district. So the at-large council members have the freedom to do that. And this is an at-large seat.
So 16 members, you said, council members, and then 1 mayor. So is it whenever any agenda item is voted on, is it 17 votes? Is that how it works?
Yes. But you need a majority vote. So if we have 6
51%?
Right. So if we have, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to fact check that. I'm gonna have to fact check myself. But yes, majority, I think it is. We need, if we have more conservatives. So for example, a few years ago with the George Floyd things that were going on, there was a lot of anger and frustration towards police, and the full story wasn't being heard. There was a lot of council members at that time that were really advocating to implement what was, I don't recall the name of the program they wanted to implement, but it was sending out social workers to particular scenes to assist the police officers. And they were talking about we needed less police officers on the street. We had too many, and there was just a lot of that
So
conversation.
they wanted social workers to do the role of police.
Basically, like on calls where there was like a domestic violence type thing.
Because it was believed that the police were inadequate. So this was hugely condescending to the police.
Exactly. And it also...
And it was a statement from the left that they have no confidence in our police force.
Absolutely.
They see the police as the detriment to society instead of the cure for society.
Right. And it was crazy because when you talk to communities at that time, the communities were like, we don't want less police. We need police. Even though there was all this friction, they still recognize that police are necessary. Like, who are you going to call when you have somebody breaking into your house?
There was a division between the leftists on the Houston City Council and their constituencies on this matter. Again, as usual with leftists in the population, the left has this sort of arrogance that they know best, and they will go their own way regardless of the will of the people.
Right. That's exactly what was happening, and that has happened a lot through the years. I think that we're on a better trajectory now, but for years that was the issue, is that the city government decided what was going to happen. And not only in the case of the police, but just overall, they decide what's going to happen, and they tell the people this is what's going to happen. And there's, we would have public comment meetings, but sometimes the majority of people that would go to these public comment meetings just don't feel heard. And that's been the biggest complaint that I've heard from constituents, is that they often don't feel heard.
Yeah, I think as a populace, we really got away from things. I think we were somewhat to blame because we allowed these sort of headstrong, detached people that somewhat narcissists get into these elected positions. And it's just a city council position, but that gets to their head. And then they begin making these judgments on the people at large. And it's a condescending, narcissist type of view from your elected leaders, and it creates a disconnect. And then these bad decisions get made.
Well, and people are often okay with the decisions if they know why you're making them. So the biggest problem is that there's a lack of communication or appropriate communication. For example, the bike lanes.
Well, may I ask real quick if we can? I want to go to that in 1 second. But again, so the counselors would go with the police on the scene of the crime or whatever. How would that even? What were the issues involved with it? How did that? What was the outcome of that?
It never happened, but the theory was that a counselor could de-escalate a situation.
And now the police, they would have to step in, and if the counselor gets hurt, they have to defend the.
They have another person that they have to.
Yeah,
worry
right.
about.
They're not just defending themselves now. Now they have a third party that they have to defend, which puts them at a weak position if any altercation would happen.
Right.
Well, it's one more bad idea from the left. Thank goodness it didn't come to fruition.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for that. Communication. We were talking about communication. So a couple of years ago, they were breaking ground to build all these bike lanes. And so they actually did build a lot. The previous mayor, Sylvester Turner, had decided there was a national initiative for the city to become a gold standard city. So you had to have a certain amount of miles of bike lanes in the city for it to be tourist friendly and increase the walkability score in Houston. So at that time they were building, it was decided every so often they do the community improvement plans, and it was decided that they were going to build bike lanes. And so a lot of people didn't remember when this decision was made, and they think it's not happening right now. And that's we also need citizens to get more involved and pay more attention, because a lot of times these things are happening to us because we're not involved and we're not paying attention. People get busy. I get it. But you have to listen, and you can stream the city council meetings and hear what's going on. I've been doing some brief shorts, just a 60-second recap, and it's just a really quick recap, but we need people to be informed on what's happening coming down the pipeline, because we're making decisions, and it may not be built for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, but by the time it's happening, people have already forgotten about it, and we need to do a better job at keeping people as it's happening, like giving them updates on what's going on. So these bike lanes were being built. They call them road diets. They were being built, and people were
They're called road diets.
Road diets, right? Because they basically take lanes away from the road and they build the bike lanes.
And so
along the side.
therefore, then all of us who want to drive automobiles are even further congested. Driving in the city is already a headache beyond compare. And now we have to all squash our lanes down, remove lanes so we can make room for bikes. And now all of us have a longer commute anywhere we want to go.
Right. It was terrible. It was it was 2 years of really horrible stuff that was happening because they were shortening downtown. If you go downtown, you see a lot of the bike lanes still there. The theory was that if we make it a more walkable city, that people will walk to work or ride their bikes to work. Nobody is going to ride their bike to work in 100-degree weather. I mean, most people, maybe some people, but the majority of people are not going to do that. In addition to Houston being such a large, sprawling city, it's impossible if you live in Greenspoint or you live in Southeast or Southwest. Imagine riding your bike to downtown from here. So it just wasn't a reasonable plan. And fortunately,
Well, if I may say, one other issue with riding your bike or riding a scooter or anything like that is that it's dangerous in the city. We're having a record number of murders right now. But in addition to that, there's an incredible amount of homeless people. And, when you go past them, the stench is awful. And so, if we want to make our city more walkable, more livable, I think that we need some better solutions with regard to improving our economy for the lowest living standards of our people. And also making our cities less prone to crime.
Yeah. Fortunately, when Whitmire got into office, he ran on that he would evaluate that situation with the bike lanes before continuing to build. So most of that new construction was halted. What was already there is there, but at least the new ones aren't being built. So communities are much happier, but a lot of businesses, so this is the issue. A lot of businesses weren't contacted or they didn't get the memo for whatever reason, and they were closing down like entryways or exits to the business or diverting traffic from people being able to get into a coffee shop. So, when you're on your way to work and it's not easily accessible to run in and get a cup of coffee, you're probably going to go to the one that's easier to get to. And so a lot of businesses were suffering from a similar type scenario. And so they were losing business and they felt that they weren't consulted on this and their voice didn't matter. So on 11th Street, they've removed one of the they built a median down 11th Street and it was being broken up constantly because big trucks going through there, they couldn't make a turn without running over the median. So they ended up taking it out. But it costs a lot of money to build it, and then it costs a lot of money to take it out. So listening to the communities, it was a group of people, they thought it was a good idea, and they really pushed that agenda, and the mayor went along with it, and a lot of the council members at that time went along with it, to the detriment of constituents, to the detriment of, it drove traffic into the neighborhoods in a lot of areas, and people are walking down the street with their children after picking them up from school. So driving with that increased traffic, it was unsafe for families.
Unsafe for pedestrians.
Unsafe for pedestrians, unsafe for families, and it was detrimental to our businesses. So the bottom line is that we need to do more listening. We need to listen to our constituents, and we need to have regular communication with them to let them know what's going on.
I mean, I like the idea of more bicycles to work. I like the idea of more mass transit, but I don't know where the happy balance is. And I wouldn't support that project because I have to go into the city on a daily basis, and it is already a pull your hair out nightmare.
Yeah. And the mass transit is another issue. We have so many buses that are not, people aren't riding the buses or not riding the Metro Rail because of safety concerns. And so that really needs to be cleaned up. And again, as I stated before, I feel like we're going down a better path. It's taken years for us to get to this point, but I think that we're turning a corner and we're on the way to a better Houston. And I feel that a lot of the council members are doing town hall meetings now. They're doing the at-large members are doing town hall meetings and the district members. So I think that we're making I think that they finally realized, or the new incoming council members have realized that this is what people want. You know, if you're really paying attention when you're out there campaigning, then you know what people want and what they don't want. And it's your responsibility as their representative to hear them and to at least let them know why this is happening. If sometimes you have to make hard decisions and it doesn't make everybody happy, but we have to be able to communicate with people and let them know, hey, this is why this is happening. So.
Very good. Very good. This is an incredibly informative interview. Really appreciate your time. Tell me, what is it that why are you're running for city council at large position, correct?
Yes.
And the position has been vacated by the previous candidate, correct?
By the she's a current council member until the end of the year, and she's vacating it. It's at large position 4. She's vacating the position so that she can run for another office. So it's an open seat.
And are there a lot of competitors in this race?
There are.
And you're the only conservative.
I am the only Republican. Yes, conservative. There are 15 candidates, and so this is a really great opportunity.
And the previous incumbent that's leaving the seat, were they a lefty?
She's very lefty.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. She was one of the leading voices.
I mean, right there, you know, Houston's dominated by leftists, and I think that's a big reason why these projects like the bike project didn't go over. It's a big reason why our city's filled with crime. They wanted to put these counselors with our police officers, putting our police in harm's way, putting the counselor in harm's way. These are all leftist ideas that are not rooted in reality.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a unique opportunity, as I mentioned before. It's a unique opportunity for us to get another voice on city council. And, you know, there's a lot that one council member can do, but there's power in numbers, obviously. And the more conservative members there are on city council, we can make better decisions. The mayor can be supported. The mayor is relatively conservative. Even Republicans are pretty satisfied with it.
But I wouldn't call him, I don't know his story, but tell me if I'm right. He's not really a Republican or a conservative. He's just a lefty, but not as lefty as the other ones.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. Pretty much.
I mean, I think we still could find a better mayor than who we have.
I think he comes from, and this is just an opinion because I don't know him that well, but just what I've seen so far, he's really, really for the people. He is an old school Democrat. You know, my family way back in the 60s, they were Kennedy conservatives, you know, and Bush Republicans and Reagan Republicans. So I think that he would, a lot of people in the Democrat Party say they didn't leave, the Democrats.
And his name is John Whitmer, right?
John Whitmire, yeah.
Yeah, Whitmire. Okay, please keep talking.
And a lot of people, in the party say, I didn't leave the party. The reason why people are coming over to the Republican Party is that the party doesn't represent them anymore. So I think he's probably one of those that's just, he's been a Democrat for so long, but he's moderate. And at the end of the day, he's doing a much better job than what we had before. I feel that he's being more transparent. I feel that he does hear council members. Again, I'm on the outside looking in, so I won't really know until I get in there. But I do feel that they voted to not raise taxes. That was a really big issue that was on the agenda. And
okay, who voted? Houston City Council voted to not raise taxes.
Right, they voted not to raise taxes.
Would it be a property tax or a sales tax? It'd be a sales tax, right?
It was property tax.
It was a property tax?
Right.
And what is the tax at today?
Oh, gosh.
The city portion.
You got me stuck.
Okay. But they were going to raise it, and they did not raise it.
They were going to raise it by, I just read it on my way here. They wanted to raise it, and he ran on this also. He said, I'm not going to raise taxes unless I exhaust every other possibility. They
I don't know how any government could raise taxes with what we are seeing today. It's insane, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, and they voted against it. So it does leave a deficit in the budget at the moment. We're still having a budget deficit. But he did tell the people last year, he said, I'm not going to raise taxes until I get in there and I see where we're spending money and then make a decision based on that. And so today he didn't raise it. So we'll go into the next fiscal year with the same tax rate, and we'll see what happens next year.
Okay, so again, 16 members are on the Houston City Council, and what is the number of Republicans? I know they're not nonpartisan, but we know there are some that are conservative leaning. How many of the 16 Houston City Council members are conservative leaning, aka Republicans?
6.
6. Okay, so 10 lefty Democrats, and you would be number 7. You would take it from the 6 conservatives to 10 lefties, and you would make it 7 conservatives to 9 lefties.
Right.
Well, that would be a huge closing of the gap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also opens the opportunity for other races moving forward. I mean, that allows for us to have a better chance next year or in the next election in 2 years. But it also paves the way because I have a pretty good following. I speak Spanish. I'm very involved in the Hispanic community. And I really believe that my being there, people know me and my history and the work that I've done in communities. So you build trust. That's how you build trust in the Hispanic community. And I believe that my being on city council, and I am for the people, but I am also for fiscal responsibility and responsible government. But I believe that we are able to bring more people to the table in future elections. I think the primaries are coming up. The general election is a big midterm election in next fall. So I'm really hopeful. I think I can bring more people to the table and see what happens, have positive results.
Good. So tell me, what was your impetus that caused you to want to run for office? Why are you doing this?
Well, I ran before in 2019, and it was after 2018, and it was after Harvey. Hurricane Harvey, and so many people experienced so much loss, loss of their homes, their vehicles, their possessions. And my family also lost, vehicles and contract.
I was in the city when Hurricane Harvey happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was terrible. And seeing the devastation after that and the red tape, the bureaucracy, the inefficiency of the city at the time, there was a lot of contracts awarded. There was not a lot of accountability. There was a lot of wasteful spending. And that was really what motivated me to want to get involved. I was working.
If I may say real quick, just speaking about Harvey alone, you're going into managing the cleanup of Harvey, but Harvey itself was traumatic beyond compare. What we saw, the water came right up to my driveway. By the grace of God, it stopped in my driveway, did not hit my house. But I would walk a quarter mile down the street, and the people were completely submerged in water. Mm-hmm. They had water rafts out there. We had helicopters coming in, dropping in ladders and things of that sort, pulling people out of their homes. It was a third world scenario and a nightmare. So it was traumatic beyond compare, and that's the reason that got you into the political office. Mm-hmm.
Even still now, when it rains, like people still have a little bit of PTSD, right? I live right in front of the bayou, and so I can see from my front window when it rains just a little bit, the bayou rises, and it is scary.
In the area I lived in at the time was the Braeswood Bayou, and all of those people had to put their houses on stilts. I mean, talk about a costly venture that hit the whole city. We had to dig the bayous deeper, and people had to put their houses on stilts. And now these people, when they come home and they have their bags of grocery, they got to walk up the equivalent of 1 to 2 levels of stairs to get into the house. It's not a good way to live.
Yeah, and so many people flooded over and over in that area. It was just terrible. At the time, I had some friends that worked for Public Works, and I remember one of the gentlemen telling me, we have the money right now to address the infrastructure issues that we have. He said, but it would take us 8 years to finish a project to get through, getting through all the red tape and bureaucracy. And I just thought that was crazy. We need to get through that red tape. We need to hold people accountable. Like, we need to be more efficient. And government, city government or any government, I think, is very inefficient to many degrees. That I think there's a lot of complacency in the city government with workers. And we want to keep people employed, but you also have to want to come to work. And a lot of that is the leadership. It is the leadership in the city government, their responsibility to make sure that it's a workplace that holds you accountable, that you don't just come and hang out and do your time, that you're actually doing the work that you're hired to do. And I just saw a lot of individuals that had a lot of apathy. It was asking a question, even 311. If somebody has an issue and they call 311, it takes a lot of time for them to get anything done. And I've seen campaigning. You get to talk to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people about what they do when they have an issue, and they call 311. And I've really taken it upon myself to teach them that you can also call your council member. And if your council member doesn't move on it, then call your state rep, depending on what the issue is, right? But government works for you. The government is there to work for you and make sure your trash is picked up. Make sure your state, your family is safe. Make sure that we have public safety, that we have enough police officers to keep the public safe. Make sure that that you don't flood, that we have the mechanisms in place for any individual to have a quality of life. And for many years, I think that we were just going with the flow, and people are, our city government was doing their own thing. We still don't know really exactly what was going on back then, in the previous administration. So we need to do better, and I think that we're doing better, but we need more conservative voices that are asking the hard questions, like where is the money going? Where is this fund being allocated? Are we holding contractors accountable? There was a lot of, and it's public record. It's been discussed in previous council meetings like that. There are certain contractors that are not held accountable and drag a job on for months. That's costing the city money. So when the mayor talks about not raising taxes because he wants to see where we can cut the fat in other areas, it's really doing things that, including, identifying who the contractors are that are dragging their feet. What can be done? Is it the manpower? Are you not having enough manpower? Do you not have enough qualified labor? Do we need to bring in another contractor that helps you? Like, what are the things that can be done, to get the job done? Because we can't drag our feet and wait for another storm to come and devastate Houstonians again. We just don't have time to wait.
Well, tell us more about, because we talked in the pre-show quite some time about what you saw with waste and inefficiencies with the contracting process in the post-Harvey weeks after Harvey.
I was working with a contractor within the city of Houston. He was a contractor that was brought in to address some of the issues at the city, to address, for example, taking constituent calls if they had been flooded. They were trying to access programs that would help them remediate their issues. There was other departments that were processing invoices, which is where I was. And I just, sometimes the individuals that were working for these contractors, such as myself, were sitting there for days, basically twiddling our thumbs because we didn't have our marching orders, basically, or we were waiting on information. We were taking up a particular the 50th floor of one of the Shell building at the time. Because the city also flooded, City Hall also flooded, so they had moved a lot of the departments into another building, and there was just so much bureaucracy and red tape. If I had a question, I would email or make the phone call and wait for a response, but they were down the hall. So I thought, well, if I can't get a response here, let me just walk over there and see, hey, when can I get a response from you on this thing that I emailed you about? And, too often I got a response like, oh, such and such, so-and-so is out today. That's their job and they'll be back, in a couple of days. So you should not have to wait if you're trying. You can't keep the city moving like that. If you're trying to process something, your bill collectors are not going to wait for you to come back and, from a sick day. So that's the city of Houston is a business. It has to be run as a business. And to do that, people have to do their jobs. And if somebody's not there today, who else can do that job while they're gone? And that's how most of these departments were working at that time, is that if somebody's out sick, it just doesn't happen. It doesn't get done. It doesn't get looked at. And, I hope that things are being done differently. I know that they've taken a lot of steps in the last couple of years to address some of these issues. And, the mayor had a big Doge thing that he did earlier this year. And so I think that helped a lot. It's like, let the people go. He didn't let them go. He gave them options. So it wasn't like this massive firing. People had the option to retire. But I hope that process cleaned up a lot of that those issues, and it's time will tell. Time will tell how effective it was, but it needs to be. We need to continue monitoring that. We can't just make a decision and then expect to leave it alone for the next 2 years and think it worked. And that was one of the things that was happening with the bike lanes. It's like they decided to build it, but nobody ever went and did a study to see if it was effective or how it was working or how it was impacting businesses. So we make a major decision that's impacting our constituents' lives. We have to be able to go back and say, hey, is this working?
So I'd like to take a second for our product, our featured product. And our featured product is the X39 patch. The X39 patch. And this is photolight therapy that stimulates your stem cells. It's truly incredible. I came across this because of Maria in Fort Worth. Maria had fallen, hit her head in the shower, had headaches for 10 years. She began wearing the X39 patch, and the headaches went away. David up in Dallas, he was beginning to see spots, and he wore glasses. He used the X39 patch, and the spots went away. He does not need glasses any longer. I have a friend who's a PTSD war veteran. He requires heavy sleep meds at night to sleep. But with the patch, after 14 days of use, he no longer needs those medicines, and he sleeps great. And as far as myself, it's incredible. After 40 years old, we have the pressure on our bladder that causes men to have to go to the bathroom all the time. But with this thing, it's gone down like 90%. It's incredible. It's the X39 patch. What it does is stimulate your stem cells. Stem cells are the heart of making a person young again. And ours are largely repressed because of everything that they put into our foods and the toxins in our society. And what this does, it brings it back to life again. It returns an element of your youth. It is reported that RFK Jr. wears the patch. So it's the X39 patch. And to learn more about it, text the word Patriot to 330-606-2304. To receive a 30% discount on it, text the word Patriot to 330-606-2304. I want to ask you one last question. So you talked about emergency PO purchase orders and how they were a problem in the post-Hurricane Harvey situation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, emergency purchase orders are a little bit different than a regular contracting process. So any normal contract on any given time, like when they have jobs that need to be done, they put out it escapes me what it's called, but they basically a bid. They put out a call for bids to be submitted, and they go by who can do the job, who has the capacity, the financial backing, yada yada. So emergency purchase orders don't follow the same guidelines because it's an emergency. So it's who's in our query that we can reach out to. It was a really difficult time. There was so much need. So it was really just people that were in the database, who has a history with the city, who's done this, who's done that. I really didn't go back to look at what the selection process was, but there was a lot of contractors that were just basically called up one day and said, hey, you have a job, you do concrete, okay, we need a concrete guy, and what do? You do drywall, okay, let's get you in. And so that's kind of, they've already been vetted to some extent for their capacity, obviously. They have to have insurance, they have to meet certain requirements. But there was a lot of contractors that were brought to the table because it was an emergency. They didn't have to go through the bid process. So it's almost like a little trial and error. It's like, if it's not working out, because maybe they didn't have what they said they had, or maybe 2 years ago they had it, but they didn't have it then. But we were just in such a dire need of people to get the work done that we were, contracting a lot of people. But it would be worth going back to see what the effectiveness was. And I don't recall if it was ever discussed afterwards to see which contractors were successful. I would hope that they did, which contractors were successful, which contractors got the job done, in under the expected time and under budget, or were on time at all. But the emergency purchase orders operate, they just work differently. So we need to be more, I think, have more oversight when it comes to emergency purchase orders, which was what I was there to do. But what I discovered was that there was people above me that really called the shots, made the rules. And so I was just processing information. But that's where I really saw the inefficiencies of a lot of these contractors that just weren't submitting the documentation that was necessary, or didn't really know what they were supposed to be doing.
So in other words, you're asking, you want to make sure that the money's going to the appropriate measures, and when you ask for information to confirm that, they don't have information to give to you, so you don't know if they are just putting this money in their own bank account.
You don't. Theoretically you don't. They're all businesses, and so, but theoretically you just don't. And it's just good practice to have checks and balances. I'd like to think that people are doing the right thing, but checks and balances, that's what they're there for. You have to be able, if you submit the documentation, you have nothing to worry about, but there's always somebody that, you want to trust that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but you have to have oversight because you just never know.
Great. Well, I really enjoyed the hour with you, Sonia, and I find you to be very knowledgeable of the issues for the city of Houston. Very informative hour. So tell us again, when is your election?
Early voting is taking place right now. It's over on Friday is the last day to vote early. It's from 7 to 7. There's numerous polls around Harris County and Houston that you can go to. Just take your ID. I voted today, actually. And election day is on Tuesday. I am the Republican in the race. There's no labels behind the candidates' names. I'm number 5 on the ballot, so you have to look for me and know that Sonia Rivera is the Republican candidate. We can win this race if we get Republicans out to vote. Most likely there'll be a runoff, but hey, if we get enough Republicans out there, then maybe I can just win it outright. That would be great.
Very good. And where can we learn more about you at?
SoniaRivera.us, www.soniarivera.us.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed the hour. And this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. We will be back this week on Saturday. Looking forward to it. Have a great week.